Welcome back, Mr. Goodberry. The First Star Logistics studio is fully equipped and ready to record.
Welcome back to Bengals on the Brain, presented by First Star Logistics. I'm your host, Joe Goodberry, and this is episode 199. The Bengals preseason defeated the Washington Commanders last night in confusing fashion. I think preseason does that, where we had this happen in the Eagles game as well, where the offense looks really good in the beginning, and then the offense stinks right when the backups get out there. The defense stinks in the beginning of the Eagles game, does pretty well in the second half. And now you get the Commanders game where we're going to go through the entirety, but to put a bow on it and wrap it up, the first team offense struggled, but put points on the board thanks to a bunch of fourth down conversions, which I am happy to see Zac Taylor do. And in the preseason, they treated it like a regular season game. If that's the tone shift and getting them ready for week one, I'm in favor. The other half is the defense. It looked terrible again to start this game against the number one offense for the Commanders. This time, at least it was the number one, the starters for the Commanders. They're expected to have a good offense, but still, it was interesting. We'll talk about that for sure. We're going to break down what the number one offense looked like, what the number one defense looked like, and then backups that stood out in today's show. And then the defense was much better once the backups got in there. So it's a win. Who really cares? I think it's their first preseason win since 2021, if I read that correctly. Might have been 2022. Does not matter. We're not the Ravens. We really do not care if they win or not in preseason. It's more about the player evaluation, which is what we're here for. And that's, one of the things that were happening during the game was, especially when the defense is out there. Maybe we'll start with the first team defense. People, are we cooked, Joe? People on Twitter at Joe Goodberry, if you don't follow me. If you're not on Twitter during game day, it is still a very good time. It's a blast. It's one of the things I truly enjoy about football season. But people are asking, are we cooked? Are we done? Does this defense suck? And there's concern, no doubt. The defense wasn't good last year. They didn't really add any premier talent. Their best player is not there still. He was there, but not on the field. And Trey Hendrickson. Hopefully that gets done. Maybe we should spend 5 minutes on news. Yes, let's spend a few minutes on news here. On the one hand, Trey Hendrickson. Recent reports that the Bengals are listening to trade offers. There was reports last night that the Patriots have contacted the Bengals, and the GM said he's willing to part with premium picks, and that Kyle Duggar is on the trading block. Could that be it? Kyle Duggar and a premium pick for Trey Hendrickson? Well, the safeties did not play too well in this game. A little passive against the run. Jordan Battle. We'll get to that in more. So what does that mean for Trey Hendrickson? Probably means that we are hitting another deadline where no progress has been made as we're approaching week one, where things are going to probably ramp up. And Joe Burrow said this in the post-game press conference that, these talks typically ramp up with a couple weeks left to go. Hendrickson during the broadcast did say that they have agreed to the money and the length, just not the guaranteed money, which is so Bengals, right? Like, you're not going to cut the guy after 2 years. What are you doing? You're not going to cut him after one. Just guarantee the money. Let's get him in here. Let's move on. Let's get the team right for week one. You're not going to cut him. You're not. We've seen it time after time. First 2 years might as well be guaranteed. You're not cutting them. I understand the financial portion of it, of putting that money in escrow, any guaranteed money, but still, what are we talking about? So I still expect it to get done. Do I expect the trade to happen? No, but this reporting did seem a little interesting. It's like, hey, Trey, we can send you to a crap team if you want that money so much, or you can play for us and try and do the damn thing. But at the same time, Trey's like, look at your defense without me. Stinks. Trey might be 75% of their defense, and that's not what you want to hear. It's not what I think anyone wants to accept, but he's the only elite player on the defensive side of the ball. You need that. Elite players run the game in today's football, in today's NFL. So you need Trey Hendrickson out there. I still think it gets done. The other half of the news, before we jump to the game too much. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around here. Dalton Risner. We've been talking about Dalton Risner for years, 3 years, ever since he was a free agent leaving Denver and then went to Minnesota for 2 years, 1 year at a time. what does he get, a 1 year, $2.5 million deal last year? He doesn't get paid a lot. He sits in free agency. I think he was signed in May last year. I think he was signed in late August or mid-August the previous year. He's good, and he's been a good pass protector. And I've been a big fan of Dalton Risner since 2019 when he came out in the draft and he went in round 2. And I thought the Bengals were going to take him in round 2, and I think they were going to take him in round 2 that year. Would have been very different outcome, I think. That was the Drew Sample trade back season. But a lot of things could have went different if that would have happened. But Risner's a good player. And I think the way Lucas Patrick has been just getting dunked on in camp and preseason, and then the injuries. Mims has missed time. Orlando Brown has missed time. Lucas Patrick has missed time. Cody Ford just missed this game. And then Lucas Patrick, apparently in this game, something happened. They pulled him out, put Jalen Rivers in. Zac Taylor afterwards said it was injury related. Sign Dalton Risner. I'm assuming it may be done by the time this show even gets announced. He's coming today for a visit. Hopefully that deal gets done right away. But he could win that job. And he's been a very, very good pass protector in his NFL career. So hopefully that happens. Now let's move back on to the defense. So without Trey out there, not that he would have helped in what they really struggled with in the beginning, it was a lot of run fits. And again, 2 weeks in a row, the Eagles ripped off some runs, and now the Commanders did as well. And it was trap blocks and pulling offensive linemen and run fitting and making sure you're in the right lanes and spilling to the right spot and taking on the right guys. And Demetrius Knight getting absolutely destroyed by John Bates at tight end. I mean, I've got concern with Knight 2 weeks in a row. He looks like he just does not have the awareness. A little bit of tunnel vision and getting blocked from the side, not knowing, and then getting completely washed out of there by a tight end. It's not a good look. And then getting washed into Logan Wilson while the defensive tackles are shocked that they're let through the line and then blocked on trap blocks. It was all bad. It was not good. And then I thought Jordan Battle was a bit passive in tackling. And I thought Dax Hill was a bit passive. We should talk about Dax Hill for 1 second. They came out in their base defense, 3 linebackers out there. Oren Burks was the third linebacker. So 2 corners. Dax was on the boundary, 2 plays. And then on the third play, third down, I believe it was. Maybe it wasn't even third down because the Commanders, I don't know if they got the third down. But the third play, they went out in nickel, and Dax moved into the slot. So that's the Leon Hall role where I'm outside on the boundary in your base, and I'm in the slot in nickel, and that's the best of both worlds. Everyone could be happy. The people that really loved him on the boundary, he's still going to be there. The people that really want to see him in the slot, he's going to do that too. That is good news. I think that's how you maximize him, which also means that Dax Hill is the number 1 corner. If they think he's good, don't be shocked if some of that $30 million the Bengals need to spend, big chunk of it going to Trey Hendrickson. I think a couple extensions could happen. Dax could be one of them. Don't be completely shocked if it happens. They picked up his 5th-year option. He's going to get money anyways. You might as well spread that out a little bit. And then Tyson Anderson, who had an interception in this game and started in place of Geno Stone, showed some range from a deep free safety. That's his 3rd interception in his preseason career. He typically gets his hands on the ball, and he's one of your core special teamers if not your special teams ace, playing every single special teams unit. I think Anderson could be in line for an extension as well if the Bengals need to spend some of this money with 2.5 weeks left to go before the regular season kicks off. But I mentioned Battle, little passive, and then the touchdown by Jaden Daniels was a golden staple of dropping one of the DNs, rushing one of the linebackers, and Daniels looks that way, sees Osai dropped into coverage, looks to the middle, sees it's wide open, and then beats Osai to the middle of the field. And then Cam Taylor-Britt and Jordan Battle are coming in. Britt's got to take on a blocker, so I don't blame him completely. But Battle goes high and kind of soft. He should have cleared him. Jaden Daniels gets crushed. It's not like it's Lamar Jackson. Different type of runners, both effective runners and athletes, but it's very hard to hit Lamar. Daniels gets smoked, and he has since LSU and Arizona State, and then last year as well. You can hit him. He's not going to avoid that contact. He's skinny as hell, but he takes those hits. And Battle didn't. And maybe he pulled up, maybe just said, it's preseason, I'm not going to. But, dude, we kind of need him to be that physical presence. It's what makes him good, in my opinion. If he's going to be good, it's because he's going to be a physical safety. So we didn't get to see that out of him. So a bit of a disappointment. And that was basically it for the starters. They got 7 plays for the starting defensive unit. Again, not a lot to take away other than we're going to watch the film, and Friday will give us a better idea of who played well and who didn't. A lot of questions about Logan Wilson on Twitter, a lot of questions about Demetrius Knight, about the other safety next to battle. It was Tyson Anderson. How well did he play? His interception was against the backups. He could continue to play and go out there again paired with Dejon Anthony. We're going to look at Dax Hill, getting our first exposure of him. And then Shamar Stewart getting reps with the number ones. Miles Murphy's out. So it was Shamar Stewart, a lot of Cam Sample and Joseph Osai at defensive end. And again, the defense did not look good. So starting with that side. Going to the offense, the more exciting side of things, the side that's going to carry this team. I don't think that's a shocker to say, or anyone would disagree with it. But I think after the Eagles game, my impression was this offense looks good. They look efficient. They look quick. Burrow looks midseason form. So I was like, box it up. Let's go. Let's get to the regular season. Well, this game was not that. Burrow did not look as efficient. He did not process as quickly the entire time, right? And these are things he does really well. But when there's a few plays, he said he missed a third down. And I didn't know if he meant the throw or not. And then there was another third down later. And then that was the one Tanner Hudson, the first third down. Then there was a throw later to Drew Sample where the safety came down. We're going to break this one down on Bengals on the Brain Friday when we get the film. But T. Higgins is going behind him. And I thought, did he want to get the safety to bite and then throw it to T? Because he was on the tablet after that play. And he was like, I think he said F me. At least that's lip reading what it looked like he said. So the processing wasn't great. Some of the pocket presence wasn't great. He took a terrible sack, 2 terrible sacks. One was the horse collar, so he got out of it. But the one where it's like, all right, it's preseason. What are we doing with Joe Burrow out there? He did cap off that first drive with a touchdown. Chase Brown. Again, I really like Chase Brown this year. I've been banging the Chase Brown drum for a long time. And he capped off that run with a touchdown. Very powerful run with 4 Washington Commanders on his back. There was a deep ball to Jamar Chase that I thought was awkward. And I wondered what happened. And then a flag came out and I said, okay, there's a small tug here. We'll see. But when Burrow got back in the game, it was interesting because the starting offensive line was out there. So the first drive caps off a touchdown. Ugly, couple of 4th down conversions, fine. The next drive, he's back out there, and Jamar's not out there, T's not out there, and Chase Brown isn't out there. But Joe's still in there. He's got Mitchell Tinsley, and we'll talk about a ton. Charlie Jones, who we'll also talk about, and Andre Osibach out there at receiver. And Tanner Hudson, who's been starting in preseason anyways. Noah Fant did get his first exposure with the Bengals, which was cool to see. Didn't notice him too much. We'll look at it when we get the tape and see what he did. A combo of Samaje Perine and Taj Brooks at running back and the starting offensive line. But this time, Lucas Patrick was pulled, Zach said, due to injury. And Jalen Rivers was inserted, the 5th round pick out of Miami, who has been getting absolutely toasted at tackle in camp and in the preseason game versus the Eagles. They've moved him into guard. They've realized when he was drafted, I said to me, he looked like more of a guard, but could probably be a swing in a pinch. Looked much better at guard, much, much better at guard. So that's potentially very exciting for his future. I don't think he's going to just start at that spot or anything like that. It's one game, but he looked much better than he did at tackle. And I thought he looked better than Patrick right away. Just he's stronger, bigger, more physical, harder to get through. The timing and some of the stunts and twists, his depth was too far upfield, hard for him to pass him off. But overall, I thought Rivers looked pretty good. I can't wait to watch the film on that. We'll probably focus on Rivers for a good chunk of the film review on Friday's episode. But exciting for what we saw. So Burrow goes back out there. He doesn't look in sync with the receivers. He's kind of jittery in the pocket, a little off a little bit on timing with some of these outside throws. And then he starts hitting Yoshi. And then he hits Charlie Jones for a beautiful touchdown that really between a tight window. And there's a clip from the end zone angle. I retweeted it on my timeline at Joe Goodberry, where you can see Charlie Jones coming across the back end zone and Burrow hits it and defenders close, that window closes. That's accuracy, man. That's ball placement. That's anticipation. Burrow, that's one of Burrow's superpowers. So it's nice to see him end that showing in Washington with that touchdown. That was like, okay, yeah, that's what Burrow looks like. So if this is one of his bad performances, I think the Eagles game, one of his good performances, this would be one of his poor performances. And he wasn't even that bad. So don't get me wrong. I'm just saying for a guy that's typically here, when he plays here, it's noticeable, right? The offense didn't look as crisp and as good. But that's when you want these other guys that can carry the load and make plays. Taj Brooks had a nice play where he bounced it back around. He went to the left. There was no blocking there, bounced it to the right and had a big run. Chase Brown had some nice explosive runs. You need these tight ends to make plays instead of Hudson dropping one or not being able to catch that slant early in the game in the end zone. Would Gesicki catch that? Would Noah Fant catch that? And then you didn't have Higgins and Chase out there. So, those guys are a big play waiting to happen at any point. So it really allows you to get through some of the rough parts when you have so many weapons around Joe Burrow, which is one of the exciting things about getting Dalton Risner and potentially starting him at right guard, because I thought Dylan Fairchild looked good again. I thought Orlando Brown Jr. was solid. Karras was solid. Mims was solid. If Fairchild's legit good, and I'm watching preseason throughout the league, and a lot of young offensive linemen so far have had one good game, one bad game, one good game, one bad game. And just look at like PFF grades for an example, because I'm doing this. I don't know if you know what the shadow team is, if you take place in it. I'm tracking my shadow team guys. And I'm like, okay, one good game, one bad in preseason. This is very common, especially for young guys. You will see these good games. You will see these bad games, good games, bad games. What ends up happening for the really good players is they end up lining it out and they learn how to play at that level consistently. Well, we got 2 games so far where I would say Fairchild's up there, and that's 2 games in a row. Consistency is what separates the young guys from the established veterans that do it week in and week out. And if he's good, that's huge, because it'd be such a big bonus to this offense and to the Bengals drafting, and to offensive line, and to Scott Peters, because everyone said that Fairchild needed a little bit of a technique upgrade. So I can't wait to watch him again on tape. Maybe it's 2 weeks in a row. Are you guys okay watching offensive linemen again? I got a lot of comments last week. We're like, yeah, I like the trenches too. So maybe you're with me on that one. But I think we'll spend time watching Fairchild, because I think he was good. Again, the PFF grades, the live grade said he was good. We'll see what it says the day after they regrade and stuff like that. Not that it matters. We're going to watch tape ourselves and generate our own opinion. But if it is 2 weeks in a row for him, big boost. All right, going to the backups now on both sides. I think we should start with the star of the show, and Mitchell Tinsley. Tinsley has made, I retweeted a couple plays where Dan Horde, who does great 5 observations every day of camp, I retweeted a couple where he featured Tinsley making big contested catches down the middle of the field and deep, and body control catches and hands catches and things like that. So no shock that he started getting a little bit of run with Burrow out there. And I'm like, he moves well for an 82. And he is catching these. First one that's not getting shown in highlights is the one where he's coming back over the middle, tips the ball in the air as the defender knocks his hand down. And then he dives and catches it one-handed as he's scooping to the ground, right? You guys remember that play? And they haven't shown that in the highlights. I'm like, that's part of the package there. It's a good catch. It's a great catch. But the 2 touchdown catches, ball skills, body control, catching it away, turning it away. You can't teach that stuff. That stuff is a mark of a natural receiver. You got to hear him speak after the game. He sounds super intelligent, soft-spoken dude, but Jamar Chase after the game, or was it during the game? Either way, he got interviewed. He said, and they're asking about Mitchell Tinsley, and he said his release packages as a route runner are really good, and he likes watching him release. Okay, so he's a good route runner. He's getting Burrow's trust, and he can make body control deep catches like that. Because then the next touchdown, right away, they go right back to him after a Barrett Carter interception, which we'll talk about Carter in a second as well when we get to the defensive backups. Deep ball to the right, off coverage. Corner's got great coverage on him, great positioning. Not Tyson Anderson. And Mitchell Tinsley goes up, high points it, catches, turns his body, both feet down. It's a great play. It's a great play, both plays, and the play before that they haven't shown on highlights. Mitchell Tinsley, if we're talking about the receivers for a second, Jamar T, right? Yoshi. I still think Burton is a lock. People are like, is Burton not going to make it? We trade Burton? Listen, there's no pressure on Burton. If his upside is worth keeping on the roster. Charlie Jones, because he's your return man. The guy who's fallen off now is Isaiah Williams, who did have a nice return in this game as the punter for Washington, outkicked his coverage completely. But he hasn't done really anything as a receiver. And I think that's the big difference here. He's not beating out Charlie and Jermaine Burton as return men. So, Isaiah Williams is not going to make it. I think number 6 is Mitchell Tinsley. And is he active on game day? Is Burton not active? Tinsley's probably not active to start because Burton also can return. But if Burton has a bad day or bad night or whatever happens, or if T goes down, I'd like to turn to Tinsley. I mean, if he can make those catches and he seems like he's on the same page as Burrow, that's huge. So shout out to him and Jalen Rivers for the backups. Those are really the only 2 guys. Taj Brooks had some flashes. I wonder if he's got the speed to break some of these runs. I'm still waiting for that. The blocking hasn't been very good, though. It's hard to tell in preseason. I'd like to see Brooks more with the number 1 offensive line. Not that the number 1 offensive line is great run blocking either so far in preseason. Maybe that gets ironed out as the season goes. But the Bengals seem to really like Brooks. And the way they're using the backup running backs, it seems like Pirine is third down pass protection. Taj Brooks is the backup ball carrier. So if Chase Brown goes down fantasy-wise, you may want to keep an eye, put a star or however you do it in your league for Taj Brooks. On the defensive side, the backups, there's more backups to talk about there. Tyson Anderson, we mentioned him a bit. He had the interception. Again, all good things. I think he's in line to maybe get extended here. Barrett Carter, Oren Burks. I thought Burks was solid. I thought Barrett Carter was very, very good. PFF agreed on that. The interception was beautiful, but he also had some good. He had 1 tackle for a loss, a good run blitz, another good blitz, and some other plays where he just looked really good in coverage and quick and decisive. He's starting to, that athleticism is really showing up. We said it the night he was drafted that if he ends up being better than Demetrius Knight, that wouldn't be crazy. This is the guy that the Bengals had a second-round grade on and really liked him and considered drafting him in round 2. Had it have gone, if Knight was gone, Barrett Carter would have been in consideration at pick 49. So that's how much they liked him. So if Logan Wilson does fall off and is not the guy and has lost a step, Carter could dig into those snaps as well. It could be Knight and Carter in the future, in a year or 2 or 3 or whatever it may be. Maybe it will be that long until we figure out, how good those guys are. But I could see them being the 2 linebackers of the future, which if you got both of them in this draft, that really helps that draft look a lot better down the line. So, you may have a solid backup in Rivers, potential starter. You may have a good starter in Dylan Fairchild. We'll see what Shamar is. But, this might be – you can turn that draft around if Shamar Stewart ends up being who he is. We're not talking about the draft. Other players that looked – or at least flashed, I can't wait to watch. Howard Cross looked better this week. We'll see on tape if that's the case. But Howard Cross had a few flashes, couldn't capitalize, couldn't finish. But he looks bursty compared to the other guys on the interior defensive line. And this is with Eric Gregory, number 94, the other undrafted guy, which we did a film review on. We did a film review on Howard Cross as well as undrafted guy. Someone asked for that after the Eagles game. I gave him a link to that. There's also an Eric Gregory one out there. Maybe we can link it or something. But I don't know how these other videos do the pop-ups where you can watch this video. But Eric Gregory, more of a run defender. He showed some lateral agility and burst as a pass rusher as well. He got in the backfield quite a few times in this Commanders game. He may be somebody we do a film review on because he flashed. No doubt. Eric Gregory looked pretty good to me. Clear practice squad spot or potentially making the team. We'll see him versus McKinley Jackson because Gregory wasn't playing the nose the way Jackson was. Jackson was that's something I talked about, why he was still playing late in last week's game. It's because he's the backup nose and they're giving him the reps. Gregory didn't seem to be playing that, but that's who he projects to potentially be in the future. We'll see. He looked quicker than I expected. So I want to check out Gregory. I thought Shaka Hayward and John Meta again at backup linebacker. The Bengals look good at number 2 and number 3 depth chart linebacker. String, second and third string linebacker. And that's what Joe Giles Harris also was a captain this week. And Zac Taylor said it's because of the Mitchell Tinsley was the other, but it's because of the camp those two have had so far. So that may mean Giles Harris makes the roster as well. He's a good special teamer. It has been in his career. So do you keep that many linebackers? Because I think Shaka Hayward and John Meta, I watch those two on special teams because John Meta stands out. He's a bit of a nut wearing 45. On special teams, he looks very, very good. So is Giles Harris making a roster spot over them? I can't see it. So again, I think those guys played really well. I'm going to continue to put a circle on Braylon Lux, number 21, as the backup slot. He stands out to me athleticism wise. And we did a film review on Braylon Lux as well, where he was playing just boundary. And I'm like, this guy might be a good slot. I'm in line with the Bengals on that. And they're run blitzing him. They gave him that 21. He looks like he can run blitz, and he's physical, and he's a tackler, but he is bursty. And he sticks with these guys in coverage. I think there's a ton of upside there. I'm very interested to see where Braylon Lux goes. DJ Ivey I thought had a bounce back game. Almost had an interception. Read a play perfectly and should have had an interception. Ball was a bad throw. Such as preseason goes, sometimes you do everything right and then the other guy stinks on the other side, so you don't get to capitalize on it. But then Marco Wilson as well, I think deserves at least some mention because he had a special teams tackle, very nice tackle, and I think they like him. I think the Bengals like their corners much more than their safety depth. So I think we're only looking at a 4 safety situation this year, where typically they were going 5 and 5 for a while. I think it's a 4 and 6 situation. 6 corners, 4 safeties, being Stone, Battle, Anderson, and Anthony. And then at corner, if you're keeping 6, Dax, Cam Taylor, Britt, DJ Turner, Josh Newton. I didn't notice Josh Newton in this game, actually. Did he not play? Doesn't matter. And then the last 2 coming down, I don't think it's Jalen Davis anymore. I think Jalen Davis, doesn't have to be on that roster. But DJ Ivey is number 5. And then you're looking at Marco Wilson, Braylon Lux. I think 6, you could feel much better. And maybe Jalen Davis is one of the 6, and Marco Wilson as well. Those guys are fighting for maybe that 6 spot. But who's better on special teams? Might be Wilson as well. Wilson could also play boundary. Might feel better about needing boundary depth than they do slot depth. If they feel like they need slot depth, it's Jalen Davis and then Braylon Lux. Wonder who's competing or who's ahead on the depth chart there. And last point is Evan McPherson. Boomed a 54-yarder and looked good. And special teams, you got to watch. I want to break down maybe this is the game to do it, is maybe we get to some film and just look at who's out there. I noticed Cam Grandy and Tanner Hudson were out there on special teams. That tight end position battle is going to be interesting. Maybe the Bengals only go 3 running backs and they go heavy at tight end. Maybe they go Gesicki, Fant, Sample, and then go with Hudson and Grandy. 5 tight ends and 3 running backs. Instead of 4 and 4, maybe they go 5 and 3. I think that's where their strength is. I think they have much better. Although I thought Kendall Milton? Yes, that's his name. Who am I thinking? Joe Milton, the quarterback. Kendall Milton, the running back, showed power and straight line speed. I'd keep him on the practice squad for sure. So the Bengals will have a few days. We'll have a film review, and then we'll have our last preseason game next Sunday. I believe they finish, or next Saturday. Either way, that'll do it for the preseason. We got one more episode before we wrap that game up, which will wrap the preseason up, which gives you a week off in between. I want to do roster projections. I want to do stat projections. And just give an overall look before we get ready for the preseason. So giving you a little idea of what the schedule looks like as we progress with Bengals on the Brain, presented by First Star Logistics. Until next time, Houday.